You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Hey, Jodie, good to be back here.
Yeah, we love it. We love being on the microphone chatting to you all.
This is our happy place coming back here.
It really is.
So
over the back fence.
Over the back fence.
That's what we want you to do more of. Go over the back fence, get a cup of tea, have a bicky, and just have a chat to the neighbour.
Yeah. And hey, did we do that the other day, Jodie?
We did do that the other day.
We actually did. Yeah, we actually did. So, listeners, we actually went over the back fence to another neighbour's place, Jane Grover.
We did.
Episode 25, and she invited us around how to cook.
Yeah, she's
chicken pie.
She's amazing. And Nicola and I, honestly, Uber Eats or any of those sort of things, are our best friends. So we're there going, pastry, we're going to make pastry.
The
God,
food
it was funny.
processor came out.
She was laughing the whole time because I'm going, oh, that's a leak. And is that that's a sweep. We were killing ourselves. How did we raise families? God love it, with a laughter, I guess. But it was fun because she's been French trained and we learned a lot, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
We were very good little girls, we're listening.
We had our aprons on. It was a really fun
a little
thing.
glass of wine.
Yeah, a little glass of wine is a must sort of like with our lunch. And then she's about to go on this round, do a lap of Australia as well. I'm
She's
talking
fabulous.
about people living life the best way that they can. Just take off and do it.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Another big adventure.
Also, my eldest son came home on last weekend, and my cup is always full when I have all the kids together, like family around. It was just, and all we did was just, and of course the grandchild there too. We went to this restaurant and we just laughed and hugged, and the whole restaurant, the baby was being passed around because we knew people, whatever. And I just thought, yeah, it's like the next phase and stage of my life anyway, grandchild, which will be yours and many others. It's just, I don't know, it was just beautiful. Now he's gone again. But, yeah, it was touchstone for me.
That's so beautiful. And I tell you, that warms my heart because we've been friends for so long.
Well, Nicola's part of the family.
Yeah, but I sort of remember, I think he's Ryan now in his 30s, well into his 30s, and they were at a wedding, and my daughter was at the same wedding
that's
too.
True.
And we only found that out
that's incredible.
when we saw photos of them together.
Yeah, it was social media. I'm like, oh, my God.
So we've been friends, like knowing our kids all the way through, which is beautiful. Just been wonderful.
Yeah, and speaking of beautiful, we've just interviewed the most amazing woman who you're just going to adore, Wendy Harmer. Most Australians know her.
Yeah, Wendy Harmer.
She's just written this book, The Lies the Mirror Told Me, and it's very, very heartfelt about her, I have to say, very painful, traumatic beginnings.
She has had the toughest beginnings, but sometimes those gifts have come.
Absolutely.
And the courage that she's had and a bit of support from her dad, but hard and tough love, and without a mum, she is amazing.
And you know what? At the end of the day, you'll enjoy it because there were so many giggles
belly
throughout.
Laughs.
Yeah, belly laugh.
Really.
She's just great. Like, we could be talking something, as we were just saying, so traumatic, and yet she'll see the light. She'll see the funny side in it. And at one stage, the producer saw me. I was on the floor choking with laughter.
She was,
So look, she's great value, and look, she, bless her, because she really exposes a big vulnerable part of her life to all of us, and there's lessons in it for all of us too, and how she's overcome that. So I hope you enjoy.
I'm
Wendy
sure you'll
Harmer.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
We certainly did. Hey, Jodie, here we are at the back fence, and we've got a local.
I never know what to say the word to start with, but hey's a new one. Hey, it's Saturday. No, it's Monday. Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, we have an amazing guest today, someone that I've admired for a long time. And I was driving in, and I was just thinking about all the people in the world walking around who have a story, and the story might be something that could be traumatic, something that was painful, and possibly before they were 10, something happened. And they're still carrying that journey still within and, haven't dealt with it. They've pushed it down. Our guest today is somebody that broke through the barrier. And I know there's many people out that have achieved that have come out of the darkness and found the light. Not to discount that they still carry a river of that with them, but they've moved forward. And I really want to to grapple with that right at this very moment and tell the listeners this particular guest went from that to becoming a comedian to make others laugh. Go figure. Let's welcome Wendy Harmer.
Oh, hello. Thank you. How nice to be here.
Welcome,
Thank you
Wendy,
very much.
to the back fence.
Yeah, well, I mean, we are so close. It's almost back fence, isn't it?
It really is. I know.
It's
We're all Northern Beaches chickadees
We
here.
are.
Well, I've got to tell you, this is hilarious. I moved.
Tell us about the Northern Beaches.
You just said a word.
Yeah.
I moved into the Northern Beaches 30 years ago with my husband Brendan, from deepest, darkest of St Kilda, Fitzroy in Melbourne, up to the Northern Beaches. Wow, what a culture
You did
shift.
see the light.
Yeah, and anyway, so I was asked if I would host the Peninsula Art Show. And I remember, because I was just a newcomer, and I said to the gal who was hosting, I said, it's so lovely to be here on the peninsula. And she said, darling, she said, you're in Collaroy. She says, the peninsula does not start until after the Bulgola bends. And I'm right, okay, I'll put in my place, aren't I? But you had to learn that very quickly. So where do you think the peninsula starts and the Northern Beaches begins?
I think it's our backyard, isn't it? One side of the fence to
I
the
reckon
other.
it's the Waco's Parkway.
Waco's Parkway.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
so.
so you come out at Narrabeen,
Yeah.
North
Just say
Narrabeen.
Narrabeen is.
No, we're not bypassing Collaroy because Collaroy encompasses all that bush.
Oh, no,
Behind that's Collaroy.
Well, they had the
But-
lockdown, didn't they? Which is the
Yes.
Northern Beaches
Now, where was
one.
that cut
And
off?
so I think that was about Narrabeen.
I'd
like
like
going
to tell
there.
you
Remember
that lockdown,
was.
Right.
It was
it
Narrabeen.
always makes me cross when people say, during COVID, the Northern Beaches didn't have a lockdown. We sure did. And I'll
did.
tell you, it was around Christmas. I had
It
Christmas
was.
planned for 14 people. I could actually look out my window and see the people who couldn't come because it all finished at
actually-
Narrabeen Lake. How
Wave.
annoying was that?
That's cruel, isn't it?
And Jeff Tooby, the former Manly captain, was one of them. And he said, well, why don't I just disguise myself as a swan or something with a snorkel and come over? And
sure he did.
I had to get my turkey and my Christmas cake smuggled in from Castle Crag because they blocked off the Waco's Parkway as well. And only
But don't you love it?
Isn't it?
It's
Oh,
just
it was
like-
crazy.
so funny.
So,
Wow.
it's
Drugs.
not all beer and Skittles on the Northern Beaches,
No,
folks.
it's not.
We do
It's
it
a lot
tough.
of that, though, let's be honest.
It is. But no, welcome. I love that story
Yeah.
there. But what you were saying with your book, Lies My Mirror Told Me, we just absolutely loved it.
thank you.
And, Wendy, going back to your childhood, I'm still in awe that you're alive, that you know
Yeah,
you've got
it's
this whole
true.
life. It's incredible. Like, can you sort of share a bit what it was like growing up in your family with your
Yeah.
parents? And
So many dynamics.
yeah.
Well, the title Lies My Mirror Told Me comes from a particular incident from when I was 8 years old. And so I'll go back a bit and give you a bit of a background there. My dad was a school teacher, a primary school teacher, and he taught in country Victoria, lots of places in the Western District and Gippsland, and we moved around a lot. Anyway, he met, my mum was from Tassie, Dad was from Ballarat, and they met in Woodend when she was 14 and he was 20, and they went on, they got engaged when she was 15, married when she was 16, and she had me when she was 17.
Wow.
Incredible.
It was so sheltered.
She was a child.
And from Tasmania and brought up by her grandparents, so sheltered that she didn't know anything about sex at all. And she believed the old wives' tale that she wouldn't have children if she planted parsley.
Oh, that's remarkable.
How about that? That's anyway.
Wow.
So by the
Wow.
age of 22,
Oh,
though,
wives' tale.
she'd
Isn't it?
had
Yeah.
she'd had 4 children.
Didn't work.
No, it did not work. 4 children, a miscarriage, and an ectopic pregnancy. And then she woke up after the surgery for the ectopic pregnancy, and they said, the doctor said, Margaret, we think you've suffered enough, so we've tied your tubes. She was 22.
Wow.
And they did it without asking.
Of course, in those days.
Yes,
yeah.
in
Isn't it
those days.
just no rights?
So
It's
she went into
terrible.
quite a depression, over that. So, she tried to take her life sort of down the track as well. Anyway, so I was born with a double cleft lip and palate, and so I'd been at these little tiny rural schools where there were like 22 kids in the whole school, in one room. And then we moved to Bendigo, and Dad taught at Camp Hill State School there. And I went from those 22 kids to 1,000 kids at school.
Huge.
Huge difference.
Transition.
So the boys used to follow me around. Now, the thing about, the cleft palate and everything is that these days when babies are born like me, they do the plastic surgery when the babies are very little, between 6 months and a year. But for me, they didn't properly repair my face until I was 15 years old. So anyway, there I am at school and the boys are following me around, calling me Eagle Beak and Flat Face and Wendy the Witch and all that sort of thing. So I came home and I said to my mum that the boys have been picking on me. And she said, well, I want you to go into the bedroom, look in the mirror, and if you can find something to complain about, you come out and tell me. So I looked in the mirror, and quite frankly, ladies, there was quite a lot to complain about. Like I had a wonky lip and my nose was really flat and I had no front teeth and all that kind of thing. 8 years old. And so, but I looked in the mirror and I thought, I went out and I told my mum, I've got nothing to complain about. She said, right, well, let's just get on with it then. I think I just didn't want to burden her.
I was wondering why you said that.
Yes.
So you witnessed something, but you spoke something totally different to Mum.
Yeah.
To pacify her.
Yeah, I think so. So the book is sort of based around a series of sort of mirrors that I've looked in over the years. I think it's something that women particularly do. Do you have an image of yourself in a mirror at a certain age when there was like a seminal event in your life?
Pimples.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
When pimples, isn't that weird?
Yeah, I agree.
God.
Teenage years,
You
you
know,
study your face
transition.
there and put sort of like with a clear seal to try and dry it out before you
But
date on Saturday.
Wendy, you said somewhere in the book, you say that mirrors are the wrong place to look for validation.
Well, I think that they are. I mean, I think in the end, it's just an image, isn't it? It's just something on a wall. I mean, you are looking at you and you look in the mirror. And what are you looking for when you look in the mirror, do you think? You are looking for some kind of validation, or am I pretty, or am I don't know what we're supposed to be sort of seeking there. Of course, mirrors have been a fascination for humans forever and ever. But if you really, I guess, want to know who you are and if you're loved, you're not going to be looking in a mirror. You're going to be looking into
Mirror.
faces of the people around you, aren't you?
Faces
On
of
the
people
wall.
around you, and Wendy, is it the faces of the people who are closest to you, such as, like now when you're your husband or your children or your,
John
your family?
Cleese, John Cleese once wrote a really interesting book with that psychotherapist. I can't remember the name. And he said the people that we fall in love with reflect ourselves back with the least distortion. I thought that
that's
was
incredible.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah,
isn't
fascinating.
it? Like they really see you as you are.
Yes.
And they don't want you to be something else. So that is a true mirror,
Reflection.
isn't it?
That's very, very true.
That's
If you
beautiful.
can find that person,
And
that the true mirror.
I can't help but bring social media in here because young girls in particular today are just searching some sort of validation through other
fixated
people, or they think they're not good enough because someone on social media looks amazing and
Well, it's
I
been
don't.
highlighed so much more now, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
It's always been a
It's
case
amplified,
that people,
yeah.
because it's sort of there.
Absolutely,
But when did you get
yeah.
for yourself then, also within yourself is, I guess, when you find where the mirror is. Would you say that as well or not?
Oh well, look, it's an ongoing thing,
lifetime
isn't it?
process.
Yeah.
I mean, aging
Yeah.
is much more of a challenge than I thought it would be. I got.
I love an honest woman.
Yes.
I just got to
Yeah.
the stage in my life where thinking, I'm looking really fantastic, and then I
Yeah.
got old.
Yeah.
These days, my favourite mirror.
That old
Yes, yes,
chestnut.
yeah.
Oh, I got old.
How did that happen?
yeah, exactly. These days at 68, my favourite mirror is the rear vision mirror in the car.
Yeah.
Because if you just sort of angle it sort of properly, and you don't see all this, and you think, actually, I look pretty fantastic. You only see about that much.
I remember that next time at the lights. It's a good one.
I'm looking pretty
I'm
good.
usually pulling a hair off the chin at
yeah.
the
Oh,
lights.
yeah.
Now, getting back to growing up,
Yeah.
I still find it hard to ask the question, but you were 10 years old and Mum walked out in the family. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, Mum was, after the depression and the kids and all that. And my father was pretty wayward, he used to sort of disappear quite a lot. He was not a drunk or an alcoholic, but he did like a drink and he did like his mates.
Yeah.
And he did like his footy. So
Aussie bloke.
Absolutely. True.
and there were different times too,
Yes.
you know. So Mum tried to take her life with an overdose of Seconal, and she called us all into the bedroom and said, "Oh, if I don't wake up, call Daddy." And I'm thinking, this is really weird. What is going on here? But then the last memory I have is Dad coming home and him carrying her unconscious to the car, and she went away for quite a long time, and she came back for a little while, about 8 months, and then she went again, and she went back to Tasmania permanently after that. So there was Dad he was in his early 30s with these 4 kids.
And you're the eldest,
Yeah,
Wendy.
I'm
and
so
that's a
that's
burden
that's a
in
pressure
itself,
itself.
for
Yeah.
sure.
So he
Every
would
man for
often,
himself.
and he would often go off playing football and leave us in the house, the 4 of us in the house for the weekend. He'd go off on Friday night and not come back till Sunday night sometimes, which is just ridiculous. But I think it is quite underestimated, and it's not very much often spoken about, how much fun you can have if you haven't got any parents.
Yeah.
See the positive take
Exactly.
on this. I love that.
The 4 of us.
So
Oh,
good.
brilliant.
Isn't
we
it
just
wonderful?
had an amazing time. The 4 of us, you know, running around the neighbourhood going feral. And,
Well, that's
you know.
before screens, Di. You're saying social media. That's
Yeah.
when you could play in the
Absolutely.
backyard. And I guess there was no rules.
So
if you
true.
know, if you're
So
in
true.
charge.
Yeah.
Well, when we lived in this house in Bendigo, over the back fence was this old gold mine,
Wow.
which hadn't been abandoned all that long ago, only in the sort of late 50s. So it was about, only closed down about 10 years earlier or so. Anyway, so there were these huge labyrinths, and there were poppet heads and, mullock heaps and diggings, and we just played there the whole time. And we had sort of running battles with the gang up the road, and we used to make these huge underground cubby huts in the sand. Look, I just think about it now.
Wow.
I mean, it's unbelievable that none of us perished in there. And I would no more let my kids play in there than fly to the moon.
See, we were just having a conversation before we came on air, is literally the red tape in the wall today. I mean, I remember I'm one of 8, as all the listeners know, that one day I went off with a whole lot of us and came back at 5 and Mum's stirring the pot and she goes, "Oh, where you been? Did you have a lovely day?" "Yeah, we met some lovely cavemen. There was 4 of them living in a cave. They were very lovely and they shared their food with us." And Mum's dropped the spoon and whatever. And "Don't you ever go back." But I think the world was different and we were freer as
but then,
kids.
the funny thing is, though, when you go back
true
to
story.
you go back to
Yeah.
our era or a bit earlier, I mean, and mothers used to just lock you out of the house. Remember that?
Exactly.
They would just go. You have breakfast and they go, "Righto, off you go," and they just lock the door.
And
And
now
you'd
it's
come
gone the other
home.
way.
You'd come home for lunch, Mum, and she'd let you in for lunch, and she'd kick you out again till it was
very
dark.
true.
You don't come back in until it's tea time.
And now it's the opposite.
And now it is. It's
Helicopter parents.
Helicopter
Yeah,
parenting.
I'm tracking you
Wow.
on the phone today. You've been to the park.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
my
I
God,
know,
is the world gone mad?
Oh. Wendy, I want to hear about also then your dad remarried. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
Alison?
Yeah, yeah.
And that wasn't the easiest thing for
No,
you. Tell
I
us a
call
little
it
bit about.
Cravella DeVille, sorry.
Tell us a few
She's a
stories
bit
from
of-
those days.
She's a bit of the archetypal wicked stepmother, really.
Yes.
Look, I can see it was very difficult for her. I mean, we were in our sort of teens, really, when she came along.
Totally.
Big
And
package.
she was only
Yes.
in her 20s.
Oh.
She started out as the housekeeper.
Right.
And
That seems to happen a lot, doesn't it? These days.
Well, at least the house is tidy.
Exactly, it's true.
Handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but she was very sort of strict and loved making rules and putting up charts of progress and things like that, and rationing things. And
Rationing
I mean, we were
things.
allowed to have like 1 piece of fruit and 2 biscuits a day, and to guard
that.
that we weren't pilfering. She used to take a hair and wind it around the knobs of the kitchen cupboards.
Oh, that's
She
cruel,
made great
isn't it?
detective.
Yeah,
Wow.
she would have. She would have.
You poor thing, you never got that love, did you?
Dad was never argumentative with you kids. He was more the debater, I read in the book.
Yeah,
Which
he
astounds me,
was.
which is sort of a gift in a strange way.
Well, he really took he wanted me to be Australia's first woman Prime Minister.
Oh, how wonderful.
Missed it by that much, you know.
yeah.
But so one of the things that he did do for me was he was quite determined, you know, that I should be well spoken. And so he would train me a lot in my speech, and so he would have me reading from the newspaper, at the table or standing on chairs when visitors came and reading from the newspaper. In fact, on the night that I hosted the big gig, I rang my dad and said, "What did you think?" He said, "I thought your diction was quite good," he said.
Oh, wow.
So he was really determined. He never limited me. He absolutely pushed me and pushed me to be out front. Like
what a gift!
When I
That
was
is a real gift.
like when I was a kid
Good dad.
in Bendigo. And the Christmas choir was on, and it was a combined schools choir of about 600 kids or something. And he made sure I got the solo. So I'm out the front singing, "There's a star in the east on Christmas morn," and all the other kids singing, "Rise up, shepherd, and follow." And, there's a really abiding memory for me. Probably my most thrilling moment on the stage was in that cathedral out the front of those kids. So he was never going to let my cleft palate and all that limit me. So I'm
with
very,
all his
very
faults,
lucky.
He was really a
Yes.
strength behind you.
Very, very lucky.
Which
in
is
that
lovely
way.
to honour that.
Because you really
Yeah,
had to go. You
against
were
all odds.
courageous to do that. Like to get up and do a solo.
God,
and
yes.
isn't it? It's hard
Even I
enough.
couldn't do that. I love
Yes.
singing in front of people.
But that's beautiful. You had your dad's
Few
backing
drinks
that way,
under
so
the
you're
belt.
right, Tidy. But,
Well, the
yeah.
funny thing is, it was. Now we don't parent like this anymore either. I don't think. If your kids come to you and say, "Oh, the other kids have been picking on me," you think, "Oh, you're going to battle for them." But I think parenting was different. They go, "Oh, fight your own battles."
Yes, yes.
That was
Yeah.
the way it used to be.
Yeah.
So quite different again to how we parent now.
Wendy, tell us about your gorgeous grandmama and your aunties and the role they played in your life.
Well, yeah, not having a mum in my life, you want that dose of the feminine. So I used to go and stay with my grandmother and my aunts in Ballarat. I spent a lot of time there. And my grandmother was just a most wonderful, magical person. And she...
What's her name? your grandma?
Nellie Brown.
I love
Love
that.
it.
Nellie
Yeah.
Brown.
Movie.
I'm not a Harmer, by the way.
No.
I'm a Brown.
Okay.
I got
Yes.
stupidly married when I was 19 and I got stuck with the name.
got stuck with
it's
the
a
name.
story.
Yes,
but
yeah, okay.
Anyway, through journalism, it was my byline. And then when I started in comedy...
So you got
I
known.
Yeah.
You're
You're stuck
crazy
with
to
it.
change
I can get...
Yeah.
I got stuck with it.
We like Harmer.
So, do you know, this is, I've got to just
Yes,
digress
yes.
here. The only
Please.
person who's complained about my book is my ex-husband. And I said, we got divorced 46 years ago.
Wow.
Like,
Still
get a
remembers you.
grip.
yeah.
I was 23. And he said, you should have asked my permission. And I said,
Oh, you got to be
Oh,
kidding.
wow.
Seriously.
How's that?
And no offence. What's his name?
Michael.
Michael doesn't crack much of a mention in the book anyway.
No, really, no. So they really were nurturing and
Really?
you had that.
Yeah, back to
Yeah.
Grandmama.
Yes.
She sounds like a dream.
she was
Yeah.
a lovely. There's a cute story, and she sort of engendered this love of fairies in me because there was a brownie who lived behind the curtain in the front room, and so she'd take me along to Lake Wendy, and she would sit there with me, and she said, she'd say, "Look, Wendy, can you see the fairies? They're in the reeds, and look, there goes one, and there's its beautiful wings flashing," and I'd be sitting there, yes, Nana, I can see it. Anyway, I got a bit older, and I thought, I reckon Nana's having a
Is
bit
she
of a lend
losing it?
here.
A bit of a lens.
Don't you love it?
Wake up cool.
I don't
wake
be a bit
up
older and
cool.
wise.
I don't think that's quite true. And so I said to her, I don't think that's really true. She said, actually, yeah, I did tell a bit of a lie there, a bit of a fib. She said, what actually happens is that the gardeners collect the wings of dead dragonflies and they tie them to the reeds with cobwebs so that little children think that there are fairies there. And I went, okay. couple of years
Wow.
later, hang on a minute, she's done it to me again.
What's she smoking out the back? Seriously. I love her imagination, though.
Yeah, yeah.
That's worth
So
boggling.
what a gift, because I have to say that book, you've written many books, but Pretty
Yeah.
Pearly, I know we're jumping from one
Yeah,
to the other.
Pearly
but
in
it's-
the Park,
with that
yeah.
too. Pearly in the Park
Yeah.
is absolutely one of the favourite books. And I've got to say too, with my former partner, his granddaughter Bella, it was always the book that we'd read together every time. So when she'd come to the house, it would always be, and then we'd go, if you'd ever go on a holiday, we did a family holiday, I'd take the book, and it was always the book that she'd come round,
Oh,
and
that's
we'd
so
always
sweet.
do it. And she'd always go, Nicola, Pretty Pearly, Pretty Pearly. And for years, and just
fabulous.
before we just decided to part ways, and the family came round, little Bella, the day before, and then we'd say, Nicola, here's Pretty Pearly, where's Pretty Pearly? And so I read the book, and then they were leaving because I knew I wasn't going to come. Next time she came, I wouldn't be back at the house. And then I said, oh, Bella, you can keep this book now. And she's going, but it lives here. And I said, no, now it's your turn. Pretty Pearly lives with you. And
so
so it's
sweet.
so
Lovely.
sweet. It really
Yeah,
is. So it's
yeah.
a really
No, I had-
special book in my heart. I
Yeah,
tell
well,
you.
there's
It's a-
17 of them.
Yes, yeah. Well, I read
That's a
we
lot.
reread the same one.
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, that's great. That did really, really well for
Yeah,
you, didn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, it
17
did.
go all
Yeah.
over the world.
Wow.
Or?
Yeah, I sold about 1 million copies of
Oh,
those.
well,
That's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah,
well
good.
done.
Wow.
And that was based, or was it originate from Grandmama with her
I
imagination?
think so.
Yeah.
But my
That
age,
triggered
That's
that?
amazing link, Di,
It's
from the grandma to the
remarkable.
book.
Yeah,
to-
it's beautiful.
No, I always had a really abiding
beautiful.
I
love,
love
of
it.
fairies and myths and legends and things.
I have to get a few more books from you there now.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
get them signed
seriously.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then how do you get cracking into what you become a comedian, or how does it roll
Well,
from
you were
there?
a
with,
journo, weren't you,
yeah.
in Geelong?
Yeah, that's right.
Cadetship,
and
is it?
exactly what Nick said. How do you go from being
Yeah.
with a life that we've just heard about, being a journo, going
I know.
into
How does
becoming
that
a
happen?
comedian?
Well,
Like,
what
Yeah.
happened was,
Blows my mind.
I started at the Geelong Advertiser as a cadet. In fact, I was the first female in the newsroom since that newspaper had been published in over 100 years.
Stop.
Oh, well.
I was
Wow.
the first. From there, then I went from the Geelong Advertiser, and then I moved to Melbourne,
Yeah.
and I was at the Sun News Pictorial.
You saw the light. You got to
And-
Melbourne.
Yeah. So I'd done industrial reporting, I'd done transport, I'd done urban, and I was up at state rounds and just starting at state rounds, and I really wanted to go to the Canberra Press Gallery, and then I want to go on and be a Washington correspondent.
Yes.
So I had it all
All
worked
worked
out.
out.
All
Yeah.
worked
Wonderful.
out.
Yeah.
And this particular day, my features editor, she said to me, there's this thing that's happening in Fitzroy and Collingwood, this thing called alternative comedy or new wave cabaret or something. She said, can you go and have a look? And I said, oh, okay. So I'd never seen comedy or cabaret or anything in
You'd
my
never thought about
life.
it before.
Never.
Oh, wow. Don't you love this?
Yeah, I love it.
Never.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I
Wow.
come from the country. I'm hanging around with hard-bitten journos. I'm usually at the pub.
Yeah.
I don't go to the theatre
Yes,
at all.
yes.
I'm not arty.
Just different worlds.
Different worlds.
This is
different worlds.
remarkable.
So I go along to this the event, and there is Paul Brabowski playing the piano for Steve Vizard, who's doing
He's hysterical, isn't he?
Is it
yeah,
full front or
and
front
pretend,
side?
Yes, yeah.
doing this
Love
crooner,
him.
Buddy Chuck or whatever. And there was Richard Stubbs doing stand-up comedy, Lost Trios Ring Barkus doing their clowning. Gina Riley was in an all-girl group.
love it, yeah.
And so
Kath and Kim.
she's singing her heart out. So I'm there with my little notepad going, what? So I went back to the office and I wrote the feature article, and then I started hanging out at the comedy clubs. And then about a month or so later, I go back into the office and say, "Oh, I'm leaving the newspaper now to go on into comedy."
I'm going to
And
be
they
a
went,
comedian.
Did they think that was a joke?
and they go, "What?" They said, I heard later on that they were planning an intervention. I got my first start in a sketch comedy with Marianne Fay and Peter Moon and Ian McFadgen.
Oh, what a blend.
Yes, at the
Wow.
Banana Lounge in Fitzroy.
Oh.
Cool
and
places.
then I started out doing stand-up comedy as me, not in character, just as me.
How
at the
brave
last
and
Isn't
courageous.
it brave to do that?
Didn't you
Well-
do that at school though with the kids? Weren't you like standing in front of a group of girls and guys and go, ha ha, ha, and everyone's laughing? Didn't
No.
it show then at all?
No. I think
Like
I
it
had
just
a.
emerged.
I had a pretty good line in Snark, I think, as a kid.
Yeah,
like a bit
you-
of cheekiness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It had to
I-
be
but I-
something.
but-
bad.
but-
yeah.
But I always I always made friends because here's the thing. To sort of avoid being sort of picked on at school, I worked
This is- yeah,
out
what-
the strategy,
Yeah.
which was that there was sort of safety in numbers, really. And so you kind of had the A-list girls, and then you had the sporty girls, and then I was
Spice.
sort of with the nondescript kind of middle bottom sort of
Oh.
girl. We were all smart,
Yes.
but we
Yeah,
were just,
yeah.
odd bods,
Yeah.
And we laughed like a whole. And I
Yes.
guess I was the sort of idiot.
You
out
knew
of the
there was
group,
something there, yeah,
So,
yeah.
but no, I'd never thought about being
What?
a stand-up comedian.
Not a stand-up comedian, but you had something.
I remember being at high school, and I auditioned to be in Brigadoon, and I wanted to
As you
be.
do.
I wanted the lead role of Fiona in Brigadoon. Waiting for my dearie and happy am I. And I didn't get the part. I can only marvel. This is amazing to me that I thought I could pull off the lead in a romantic musical with no top teeth. I
See,
mean,
Wendy can do anything.
I mean,
that's
for good- I look back and
beautiful,
think,
isn't it?
See?
what
That's
was
her
I?
father, her father.
Exactly.
You can do anything.
But that's joy,
That's
so
your
really,
father.
isn't it? When you can just
It's
do
a-
that, and it's
I
the
can
innocence
do
of that.
no problem,
Yeah.
no teeth, easy.
Wow.
Easy
so,
peasy.
So, and then was it from that then into radio? How did it progress for there?
Yeah, well, yes, what happened was, so, I had the comedy career, the Gillies Report and then the Big Gig. And then I had a very big broken heart incident. And so...
With Patrick?
Yeah, with Patrick. And so I came to Sydney because I
That's
just
what you
couldn't
do.
Yes,
stand running into...
Was there any?
Oh,
Was there
I
any?
get
I was going to
that.
say, was there any
Yeah.
little revenge story, any sort of funny stories with Patrick at all?
Well, I did write an entire book called Love
I was
Gone
going to
Wrong.
say, yeah, there you
And
go.
she went on
I was gonna
tour.
say,
And I
how's
did a
that?
show
Yeah.
called Love Gone
And
Wrong.
did he
How's
ring
that?
you and go, why did you do that? You need
No,
my
no,
permission.
I love an
No.
ex-husband still ringing her up.
Good.
And
He came to my wedding.
Oh, we
Now-
love Patrick.
Hey, I was going to say, how do you
That's
turn
great.
that round from being, an ex sort of from the partner or whatever, and now he actually came to your wedding? That now is a
Yeah, well, we
wonderful
just
friendship,
remained.
isn't
We
it?
just
Some
remained.
men can deal
really,
with it.
really good friends.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
I even once wreaked revenge, and I found out where he was living, and I found out he had a new partner, and I went into where he was living, and I cut up all his clothes with a big pair of scissors, cut everything, and my girlfriend was standing next to me, and she just got dumped as well. She was going, "Can I have a go? Can I have a little go?" And I went, "Yeah, okay."
Pass me the
Hand them
scissors.
over.
Oh, those
And what he
stories are
said about-
I
and
thought
of
there
course-
was a few.
Of course, everyone was saying, "Oh my God, isn't that so terrible?" But he, bless him, he said, "Oh yes, she was always a very passionate woman, and that's why I loved her so much."
Oh, really?
How about that?
Wow, that's actually
See,
fabulous.
isn't it good? You
That's
turn
very
it around,
good.
and that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
That's
like
what life's
that.
all about.
It is.
You can
know.
cut everything up in the fat, but I still love you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, really? Go
Yeah.
figure that one.
Yeah. Oh,
so
that's
back
wonderful,
to radio,
yeah.
like, because
Oh, yeah. So I came to
no,
Melbourne.
but I was obsessed
Sydney,
with
rather.
you on radio.
You-
Can you just quickly, when you were at Today FM, you were sent to the Oscars.
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you just tell that story?
I will tell that story.
And for international listeners, Wendy was the number one on morning radio on FN and ABC here. So she was big.
Well, yeah. What happened was
yeah.
I was really the
And the highest paying one too.
Yeah,
is that
she
right?
was.
Yes, I
she was.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those that don't know,
Yeah.
every Australian knows Wendy.
Groundbreaking in
Yeah.
so many areas.
Yeah.
But the thing was, there
So,
were no
yeah.
women doing commercial breakfast radio at
Yes.
that time.
Which is remarkable.
Which is, you think about it now, and you think about
go
Fifi
figure.
Fox, and you think
Oh.
about Jackie O, and all those people. But I was kind of the first one to be put on
Trailblazer.
because this producer said, "Oh, I reckon there's probably a lot of women listen to the radio." And you're like,
Oh,
"Do you
wow.
think?"
Do you think?
Maybe.
We're only
It
50
might
we're only
be.
50% of the population
Like,
or more, aren't we?
Go figure that one.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so this particular year, we were sent off to cover the Oscars
This is
in
funny.
LA. The year before, we'd got kind of gone and we'd broadcast from a broom cupboard at, in the San Fernando Valley at Kiss FM. But this time, we were going to stay at the Beverly Hilton, and we had tickets to the Shrine Auditorium as well. So this was really fantastic. So we were broadcasting out of the conference room. So we had big stars coming by, Merv Griffin, and his wife invented Jeopardy, of course. It was Merv's hotel, telling us all stories about Marilyn Monroe. And, I've got to tell you this because you'll adore this. Diane Cannon from Ally McBeal, who played Whipper Cone, she came along, she baked us some muffins, the three of us some muffins. It was very nice.
The housekeeper.
And she was She was sitting there in the most divine yellow ostrich handbag sitting next to me. And during an ad break, I said, gosh, Diane, that handbag. She said, Carrie gave it to me. That would be her ex-husband, Cary Grant.
Wow. Oh, my God.
So I just reached out and I touched a handbag that had been touched by Cary Grant. Honestly.
She's sniffing it.
That's really Hollywood royalty there, isn't
all
it?
I wanted to do was to steal that bag and run up
blame you.
Wilshire
I thought
Boulevard.
she gave it to you.
So
Anyway, so we've now got an hour ready to go to the Oscars. Which is not very much. And I swear so I had just had I had my first son, he was 3 months old, and he was with us, and I'd had an emergency cesarean because he basically wouldn't come out. We had to go and get him. But so I was still a bit hormonal and, all that. And so I hadn't really been paying attention, and I was off to the Oscars with this 3-month-old baby and, getting up at sort of, 3:30, 4 in the morning. And I'd pulled out the dress that I was going to wear the night before, and I am not lying, it had moth holes in it.
That's a new mum, isn't it? Not to look at that.
She could start a new fashion.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm like, oh my. So there I am.
1 hour to go.
Milk dripping.
Yeah, there I am. I'm standing looking in the mirror, and I thought, my fringe looks a bit long. I might just give it a trim.
Oh, boy.
What with? Did you have
Baby nail scissors. So
the things you do when you're
anyway,
sleep deprived.
so
Okay, we've got moth holes. You're trimming with the nail clip.
Hey,
This is
don't
going to
give
be
away.
Oscars. I love
it gets
this.
worse.
Oh God.
Anyway,
Can't.
so you know what it's like to cut your
It was
fringe.
stylists and 3 makeup artists and the whole thing going
I
around.
know, because it was I bet you, because that was the year Titanic won all the awards. I bet you Kate Winslet
Everything.
wasn't
Yes.
standing there in a
Mothballs.
maternity bra, crying with a pair of baby nail scissors in her hand. Anyway, kind of get ready, and we go up to the Shine Auditorium, and I tell you, it was the most amazing thing. I'll never ever forget it because it's like on that red carpet there. It's like there's helicopters buzzing overhead, and there's all the people in the bleachers and screaming and cameras and lights and the whole thing. Anyway, the carpet is divided into 2 halves, as you can imagine. All the Neville nobodies go up one side, all the producers and all that riffraff, and this is the other side for all the stars, right? So as I'm walking along, I hear this. I'm on the Neville nobody side, obviously. And I hear this, Wendy Harmer, Wendy, come over here. And I look around, and it's Carrie Ann Kennelly.
Oh,
Good old Carrie Ann
And
Kennel.
she's holding out a microphone. And so I just quickly look around, duck under the rope.
Oh, I love it.
And I go up to her. And
Where
she
you
said-
belong.
Yeah, yeah. And I just
Exactly.
start going, blah, 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 blah. What are you looking forward to on the internet? And I said, I'm looking forward to all of your bed. But I said, I think the real action is going to be in the ladies' powder room a bit later on in the evening.
Funny
That's what I
that.
said.
Yes.
Anyway, a couple of things happened after that. I was told that my sister's kids were sitting in Wandon Valley in the farmhouse watching. And they're like, oh, there's Leonardo DiCaprio, and there's Kate Winslet, and there's Auntie Wendy. Like, completely stunned. And the other thing that my mate said is, how could you make a joke about snorting cocaine on national television? And I said, I wasn't. I was just saying, I didn't want to say toilet.
The powder room.
I was thinking
say
powder
that.
room.
Exactly.
And I was thinking about them getting out of all their garments so they could have a wee in the ball gowns. They went, oh, yeah, sure, Wendy, right.
Wendy.
Yeah, we
Oh,
believe
that
you.
is gold.
Anyway, so we get in there and we're in the nosebleed section watching the show. And then I started to get really thirsty, like breastfeeding mother thirst.
Oh,
which
like
is-
Anna Melissa.
Yeah. Anyway, so I sneaked out and I'm in the hallway there and I ran into Shirley Jones. Now, Shirley Jones, you'll know best as big long-time star,
yes.
as Mrs. Partridge.
The mum,
Yes,
from the
yeah.
Partridge family.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I thought, well, if Mrs. Partridge, widowed mother of 5, can't find me a drink of water, no one can. And anyway, so she was standing there, and I've got my, drink of water at last. And she says, "And what are you doing here?" And I go, "Well, I'm from Australia, and I'm here with my baby and my husband." And she says, "And how old's your baby?" And I say, "He's 3 months," and I can almost hear the sound of Georgette puckering around both nipples because I haven't put any
Pads in.
Oh,
God.
And so
Yeah. All the new mums when you're listening here can relate to
I'm
sort
just
of like,
standing there
wow.
going, "Oh
She's
my
got the moth hole.
God.
Yes. She's got the milk.
The glamour of it all.
I know.
It's
I had to have my
good.
sort of evening bag over one
Ah.
boob and my program over the other. And as soon as the thing was over, I just fled, really. Because I couldn't even pick
no
up
after parties or,
I couldn't pick up a glass of champagne because I had to hold this over my boob. So that was
what
me.
an
Isn't it-
experience.
what an
Honest to God.
Unbelievable.
Truly.
I love the reaction to, like with your sort of like family back home and, there's Leonardo DiCaprio and there's Auntie Wendy. But I sort of think, how good is that anybody can really do anything in this life? I think you're a real example of that sort of, people can put themselves in a box. You're a girl from the country. I think that girl there would never have gone to the Oscars.
Oh, it's true.
And look what you've done.
Well,
and it's just,
my
you're
husband-
remarkable.
Oh, thank you.
No, you
my
really
husband,
are.
Against
my
the
husband,
odds. Against all odds.
my husband said a wonderful thing. He said, I was being interviewed by the Women's Weekly. It's a funny thing, and they asked me a question that I have asked a million authors myself.
Yes.
What do you hope people will take out of this book? And I said, "Oh my God, I've got no idea." I always ask
Yes,
everyone.
yes, exactly.
And my
Yes. When it's gonna get
husband,
sent.
my husband was making us some sandwiches, and he yelled out from the kitchen. He said, "The old saying goes that you can't be what you can't see. You decided to be what you couldn't see." Isn't that cool?
That's got to go into
that's
our
it.
coffee
That's-
book.
yeah,
We're
a
doing a
coffee-
coffee book of Overback
bit
Fence
of
quotes.
quotes.
That's got to go, Sam. We've got to write that one down. That's beautiful.
That's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Brendan, what a gift he
Yeah,
was.
he's
He
very
dropped
good.
down from heaven. I was
Yes.
reading in your book because you were going to work literally on Today FM at 3:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
He
Getting
would
up
pack
early.
your lunch because he was the house husband.
Yes.
And he'd write you these beautiful notes. And
Yeah.
you've kept these notes.
Yeah, I've got thousands of them.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thousands.
He left me a
wrote.
note. Yeah,
Like,
he
give
left
us
me a
examples
note
of what he'd write.
every
Yes.
single morning.
Like,
Okay, he
like-
would see what happens.
You snored last night or
No,
what? Like-
no. Well, the thing is that it started off, even in our marriage booklet, he had, "I love you more than Cliffy Lyons," which is like, oh, God. I mean, there you go. But anyway, so ever since then, he would write me these notes, and they could be funny, or and there'd be, "I love you more than ants' feet. I love you more than petals on flowers. I love you more than buttons on all the suits in Hong Kong. I love you more than every ripple on a wave. Or I love you." And so all these beautiful notes, and there was lots of funny ones in there too. And so I kept them all, even if he was going away, he would, or something, going on a surf trip or whatever, he would write me enough notes to last the time he'd be away.
How
Kept
special
going.
is
And I
that?
just kept them all. And so I've got, all
Well,
of
I've got
them.
to say, like with Brendan too, and with relating it to the radio, that it's a tough industry too because it's all ratings. And then when they sort of one day they said, right, you no longer have got your job, Judith Lucy's doing it. I mean, that's harsh and that's cruel. And you're sort of then saying, how do you deal with that? And then when one of your first phone calls is to Brendan, and what does he say?
Yahoo, you're coming home.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
So you've always had a soft place to sort of fall or land with him.
Good point.
Well,
Yeah.
the amazing thing is that he has listened to everything that I've done.
Wow.
I mean, he...
And help manage you too
Yeah,
indirectly.
and
been your
but
biggest
the biggest
advocate.
thing of all,
Yeah.
he's been the house husband the whole time.
Isn't it wonderful?
He's
And
stayed
house
home
husband
the whole time
meaning
with those kids.
You
and
were
lucky kids and-
42 and 44 when you became
I
a
had
mum
them late
too.
in life, yeah. I remember when Brendan started being the house husband at home, a delegation of his mates came to me and they said, with Brendan being at home, just looking after the kids, we're really worried that he's losing his identity. He laughed for 48 hours straight, I think, when I told him. Because if there was
intervention.
ever
Exactly.
anyone who's more sure of their identity, I've yet to meet them than
Wow.
Brendan Donahue.
What a
He
great
knows who
pair.
he is. That's for
And a
sure.
great father too, I
Yes.
gather.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
how old are the kids now?
24 and 26. And Maeve's still at home with us.
Of course.
And Marley went out to uni. He went to Hawkesbury Ag College and lived out there in Richmond for a while. And now he's sort of back in on the northern beaches. Yeah.
Wow. And I just want to ask you too, because you're saying that you're 68, and we've got some listeners sort of similar ages and younger and older or whatever. But what sort of advice or tips would you sort of say with aging, like the pluses of it?
Look, it's all shit.
Or is it all downhill?
It's just
My
shitful.
mum used to say it's 50 and you're all downhill. SHIT. Wow.
I don't
'Cause we're going.
I don't see that I'm any wiser or more clever or more sanguine or more relaxed or more anything. It's
another
just,
day in your life.
It's just a continuum.
You know what she's got? She's got a sense of humour.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you've got
Yeah.
that, that's the greatest
Yeah,
gift
yeah.
It is.
to take you forward, I reckon. If you had the opportunity of speaking to your 20-year-old self, what would you say to her and why?
I never ever answer this question because A,
Wow.
my 20-year-old self wouldn't listen, and B,
Oh, that's
my
a good one.
20-year-old self could teach me a lot of things. I would rather my 20-year-old self tell me that there is no limitation to what you can do and get out and have fun and damn the consequences and be brave. And I think she's the one that I would like to hear from rather than me
That's
tell
beautiful.
her.
Oh, bravo to
That's
that. And were you like-
I
you
don't
were
think I've
that-
heard someone say that's amazing.
And you were that
Yeah.
20-year-old girl that was that
Yeah,
brave.
but you think of
How's
yourself
that?
at 20. I mean,
Yes.
yes, at 20 you do have kind of doubts, but you're brave, you have fun, you stay up all night.
Fearless, really.
You know, you're snogging
Totally.
boys, you're planning a trip overseas. It seems limitless.
True.
Your horizon. So, yeah.
Wow, I think
So
I
she's
might
limitless. I love
turn
that.
to be 20 now instead
Yeah,
of 60.
it feels great. Free.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, Wendy, if you could share a back fence with anybody on planet Earth, who would it be
Oh,
and
well,
why?
apart from you two. Fran Lebowitz.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
love her.
She's
Mind you,
incredible.
not that she's ever had a fence in her entire life.
No.
But I would like an adjoining apartment, let me
Yeah.
put it that way, in New York. That would be
Yes,
cool.
yeah.
Or a chair across from her in a coffee shop.
And why
Yes.
Fran?
She is the funniest, cleverest, most droll person. I've written lots and lots of comedy, over the years in columns and what have you, and she's always been my inspiration. She writes
Really?
funny. She
Yes.
knows how to write funny. That's not easy to do, and she does it so well.
Well, you do it well in
Yeah,
your
I'll
book.
Certainly
Thanks.
do it well. And wasn't
Yeah.
she the big advocate too in the writers' strike and the actors one too?
Oh, yeah, she's just the most
she was-
fabulous person.
Yeah, she really
Dynamic.
stands up and strong that way. And really made a difference.
Have you seen the series
So-
she does with Martin Scorsese?
Which
Oh,
one?
Which is
Yes.
called, what,
It's
do you remember
called
what it's
Pretend It's a Village, I think.
Oh, okay.
I know, I
Well,
haven't
there you
even-
go,
have you
listeners.
heard
There's
of it?
another
Yeah.
one
I
too.
haven't even
We've got
heard
a
of
tip.
it.
We've got a Wendy
Yeah.
Harmer tip here
Oh, no,
to
no,
listen
it's
to.
a great series. She
Great
sits
series,
down
great.
with him over about 4 or 5 episodes and talks about living in New York and her life's philosophy, and it's
Oh, I gotta
And
see
then
it.
anything else for you? We just got to say before we wrap up too of what's next for you. What's your?
I'm
ahead?
working.
I mean, what haven't you done?
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on a musical at the moment for grandparents called the Grandparents Club.
I'll be there.
Oh, this one's a glamour.
Oh, well, there you
Yes,
are.
yeah,
You'll have to come
exactly.
along.
Yes,
So that's only in a couple of months' time. That's
Excellent.
coming up,
It's a,
yeah.
always reinventing yourself. And
Yes,
you,
although
I mean,
the
or
books
of you, I always have been. You make me laugh like nobody
Nobody
else.
else, yeah.
You're the only person made me laugh at 3:00 in the morning when I'm reading, listening to
yeah.
Audible. But look, the book's Lies, My Mirror
Mirror
Told
Told
Me.
Me.
And, as I was just quickly saying to Wendy before we went on air, it's a book you can grab up and grab any chapter, for a bit of a giggle.
Yeah, we'll have
and,
a-
and
yeah.
a reflection on this remarkable woman. It's
Lovely.
worth, it's
You are.
worth a
Thank
read.
you Thank you so
Yeah.
much,
Wendy,
Wendy.
adore
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Laughter
for
is
making
the
us
best
all laugh.
medicine of
Number
all.
one.
Yeah, you're a
Thank
gift.
you.
So everyone, thank you for listening, and don't forget to rate and review. And now, Didi, you like stars? We've got
Yes.
Wendy here. How many stars do we give?
I think
the rating, or should they
68 out of 5.
68 out of 5. That's a good one. You got it there. Thank you.
It's the
Check it
done
out.
deal. Ciao, everyone.
Ciao,
Bye.
bye.